Hey there, church family. Pastor Stephen here. In episode 10 of Experiencing Hope in Suffering. Just as a reminder, I'm walking through Paul David Tripp's book on suffering. It's really helpful. I've listened to it and then I've read it and now I'm going back through it again and sharing some of the pieces and highlights, some things that have helped me and are continuing to help me in this journey. So I'm walking through chapter 2 for 4 weeks, I guess, 4 different episodes. And so as we're continuing into chapter 2, we're looking at this list of the 7 things that we bring to our suffering. And so poor theology, doubt of God, unrealistic expectations of life, unrealistic expectations of others, and then today is number 5 is pride. And he talks about pride as not so much arrogance, but as in self-reliance. This idea that we don't need anybody else, we don't need God, we've got this. And so Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18 says this: pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before the fall. You'll hear it said, pride comes before the fall. And people will use that phrase in a lot of different contexts. A lot of times I've heard it in sports. The team got a little too cocky. They felt like a little too confident. They didn't prep and prepare like they should have. But anyways, it's the idea of self-reliance, that I'm good enough by myself. I want to share with you some of the quotes that he says in chapter 2 in this particular category about pride. And I think they're solid, very helpful, make me really think. He talks about pride, that we're proud of our physical bodies, our physical strength and health at times when we're feeling strong and healthy. Our sharp minds, if we're feeling like we're clearly thinking and we've got things figured out. We can become very arrogant about that. Having our social abilities. Certain people connect really, really well in groups of other people. And sometimes we can get really proud and prideful about that. Our ability to lead and control in order to, sometimes we get proud of being able to get people to buy into a vision and then lead them to wherever it needs to go. And then just the pride of our successes. When things go really well for us, we have a tendency to be taken back by our pride. When things seem to be falling apart, pride, usually it's like his pride was wounded, kind of a humbling that's happening. He also says this: we tend to take credit for things we could never produce or achieve on our own. And that is true. And he goes on to say this: we forget that every cell in our body and every neuron in our brain is dependent on God. I think one of the best illustrations I've ever heard, and it just sticks with me, is I don't spend the day telling my heart to beat. I'm not sitting here right now thinking, please beat, 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 beat. It's a part of the way God has designed my body, and it's going to beat until something makes it stop, or it stops because it's worn out. Just that idea that there are things going on in our bodies, in our circumstances that are so beyond our control. We might be able to medically manipulate some of those things, but ultimately, there's a lot that is outside of our control, what happens even just with our physical bodies. And then he goes on to say this: we forget that every success we've achieved has depended on forces we could never control, and we forget that our natural abilities are gifts from God. Each person is gifted by God. We're made in His image. We're designed with uniquenesses and unique gifts. And if we're not careful, we'll assume that that's all because of us. And that is just not the case. It's not true. God is working in our lives and allowing us to thrive in certain areas and to serve in certain ways. And ultimately, it should be for kingdom good. But if we're not careful, we'll misplace that. We'll forget about God. We'll forget about how we're dependent on Him. And we'll just assume it's about us. And that can get us in a bad situation. Then he says, taking too much credit always leads to placing too much trust in yourself. Listen, we're all prone to this, of taking too much credit. One of my favorite quotes about leadership is, leaders take blame and give away credit. Leaders absorb blame and give away credit. And that's really important for us to remember. We don't need to take too much credit. So much is going on around us. We need to be investing in other people and encouraging them. And pride is going to creep in and to make us think that it's without us it wouldn't be working. And listen, time and time again, God uses individuals and peoples to do certain tasks, but ultimately his redemptive purposes keeps going. So we need to just trust him in that, give him glory, and just try to be helpful today. That's a good way to think about things. And then he's got this little paragraph that he runs through in the book, and it kind of makes me my heart starts beating fast, and I start feeling a little bit of anxiety when I'm just thinking about this, because he uses this word panic over and over and over again, so maybe a little trigger warning. This is what he says about self-reliance. When you live self-reliantly, and the unexpected, the unplanned, the unwanted, or the painful comes your way, you panic. I'm going to say that one again. When you live self-reliantly, and the unexpected, the unplanned, the unwanted, or the painful comes your way, you panic. What are we going to do now? Things start getting crazy. He says this: you panic because suddenly you're faced with your smallness, weakness, and vulnerability. Oof, that hurts. You panic because you feel unprepared and unable. Unprepared and unable. Man, those are big pieces. You panic because things are out of your control. Hello, 2020. Things are out of your control. You panic because you can't understand or make sense of what's going on. Hello, 2020. You're knocking again. You don't understand. We were just talking about that this morning with some of our staff. It's just everybody's got a different opinion on all kinds of things, and it makes it very difficult. We're just unsure and unable to understand. They're out of our control. And then you panic because the way out is unclear. You panic because you just don't know what to do. Suffering exposes the danger of self-reliance. So this idea of we bring our pride, each and every one of us, to our suffering. And when suffering happens, it starts to expose our self-reliance and how much we actually think everything is dependent on us. When ultimately we need to know this: we need God and we need other people. We need God and we need other people. And when we are walking with Christ, when we're abiding in Christ, and we're building healthy relationships with other people, then, man, that gets us in a spot where we're interdependent. First and foremost, we need to be interdependent and dependent on God in our relationship with Him, and then we're going to be interdependent with other people. We need one another. We're better together. Isaiah 41:13 says this: "For I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand. It is I who say to you, fear not, I am the one who helps you." We need the Lord's help, and so thankful that the Lord is willing to offer His help and His guidance in our lives, both for our salvation and for life on this planet, how we live out each and every day. So maybe you're struggling a little bit with some pride. We all do at times. But ultimately, you're not supposed to be reliant only on yourself, but you're supposed to be reliant on God and other people. So let's work on that a little bit this week, thinking through that. Listen, there's hope and healing in Jesus. We believe you can experience it. We believe we can help other people experience it. And that's what we're trying to be about here at First McAllen. So we love you. We hope to see you soon.